Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 5th of June, 2023. We are live tonight on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel. I couldn't get the Wilmsfront Rumble channel to stream this week. I tried to put in the new stream keys just as the show was starting to count down, but unfortunately I couldn't get it in time. But it was I got good views on my first Rumble stream last week, so it's a bit disappointing. But the show goes on. Hello to everyone in the live chat, and remember, as always, you can join on Entropy, where you can send myself a direct question, or even better yet, send through a super chat to support Unshackled Productions. Not just this program, but of course the Unshackled as a whole as well. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where we had two after earthquakes after last Sunday night's Sunbury earthquake, which was 3.8 magnitude. So on Tuesday, there was a 2.3 magnitude afterquake in the outer northwestern suburb of Croydon. And then there was on Saturday a 2.3 magnitude afterquake on the Mornington Peninsula. So I think this is the first time we've had, because obviously we had the big earthquake, which was over 5 on the Richter scale in September 2021, which was up near Mansfield. We didn't have any aftershocks then, but we've had 2 so far. But it's quite incredible. I'm in the Frankston Mornington Peninsula area, but I didn't feel the quake. I definitely felt the one in 2021, that's for sure. Now, there was an after effect of Dan Andrews' state budget last week, where he announced increases in payroll tax and also lowered the threshold for paying land tax. And he also announced that he would be removing the exemptions for private schools. Private schools, they would have to start paying payroll tax, but he backed away from that at when he was before a public accounts committee, after there was so much backlash from private schools, including probably the Catholic schools where Dan Andrews sends his children, because remember, he says that he's a practicing Catholic. I noticed that there's not there's a few comments in the live chat, because I'm back on the Wilmsfront channel. It takes a while for people to filter back into the other channels. So if you can just, because I often, to make sure that the show's running smoothly, rely on your feedback. So if you're in the chat, please go punch through a few comments to just so I know that everything's going smoothly. Now, last week we had Dan's goons, otherwise known as Victoria Police, for some bizarre reason. Well, clearly they are tone deaf. Decided to post to all of their social medias advertisements for a Victoria Police career in the public order response team. So it says, can you spot the difference? And obviously they chose a female officer. That's her in a normal Victoria Police clothing. And then it has her on the right in her port riot gear. So it says, you've seen their cars rolling through the CBD and around town when attending events. You mean crushing dissent during the lockdown. But do you know what they do? Yes, we do know what they do. So it's hashtag police careers, port, community policing. Responsible for public order events incidents, both planned and unplanned. There's no such thing as a boring day in the office for our public order response team. Well, you certainly find ways to entertain yourselves by pepper spraying, or it's up in New South Wales, they use the taser. Exposed to a range of jobs, they often work alongside other units, air wing, mounted branch, statewide. Often on the move, members are required to complete extra levels of fitness training and courses. Do you think you've got what it takes? More about career pathways at Victoria Police. So answers are helmet, body armor, and mask. And obviously here are some highlights from the port activities during lockdown. You can, well, it wasn't Port that handcuffed Zoe Bueller in her home when she was pregnant for attempting to organize an anti-lockdown protest in Ballarat in 2020. It was just an ordinary police officer who choked that woman for not wearing a mask, but it was the public order response team that knocked down and pepper sprayed that old grandma. There's the Victoria Police with rubber bullets, and obviously they fired them at the shrine, and then there's body slamming someone to the ground there. And not surprisingly, Victoria Police, they limited replies on their Twitter and Facebook because they were getting so much backlash too. Well, people were just holding them to account. This is what Port has been for the past 3 years in Victoria. Now, of course, a Victoria Police, they were at the front line of enforcing Dan's edicts during the lockdown pandemic years, but also Vic Roads. They do not want number plates that are against their dear leader. So a caller, Peter, who he got the personalized number plates Dan out, and he's been told that Vic Roads have now deemed them inappropriate, and so he's been told his registration would be suspended and then cancelled if he didn't hand in the number plates by today, the 5th of June. Now, Danger Dan, one of my favorite satirists of not just the absolute state of Victoria, but the absolute state of Australia, had some suggestions for other Victorian number plates. So there is 801 deaths linked to people dying with COVID from the hotel quarantine outbreak in 2020. Dan Stairs, Red Shirt, Dan's Debt, and I Back Dan, or it seems to be his personalized favorite there, Dan T-Bone, which of course is what the Andrews family claimed happened to their car when they crashed into that cyclist back in 2013. Yes, it is petty, but you don't. The government agencies in Victoria, you don't question the dear leader. James Boone said, "I went to Melbourne last week. Did not like it. Solar City, Dan's union thugs on every corner, standing in front of huge corporate buildings." Well, Dan's big build It's certainly created a lot of unionised jobs, that for sure. His Metro Tunnel, his signature project, which is due to begin operation in 2024 or 25, it's been revealed that there have been rorts by companies, and or not, which I'm sure doesn't surprise a lot of us, given that there have been cost blowouts in the several billion. That's just one project there. Now, going national, obviously the cost of living, it's certainly higher in Victoria because you are taxed more in Victoria. Victorians are the most taxed Australian state. Well, its residents are, but nationally, inflation is still rampant. So the inflation figures to the end of April this year for the previous 12 months, 6.8%. So you can guarantee an interest rate rise tomorrow when the Reserve Bank of Australia meets for its monthly meeting. The Fair Work Commission last week ruled that Australia's minimum wage will increase by 8.6%. Award workers will get a 5.75% pay boost. So this means the new national minimum wage will be $23.23 per hour and $882.80 based on a 38-hour week, which is compared to the minimum wages in the rest of the world. That's still pretty good, though obviously we have a high cost of living here with, well, the cost of a home, and also rent quite high as well, and the fact that the Albanese government is opening up the floodgates to around about 600,000 migrants over the next 2 years. There is no way that in the short term that supply is going to keep up with demand, even if the NIMBYs in the inner suburbs of Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane are all bulldozed. So when the Reserve Bank Governor Phillip Lowe appeared before the Senate estimates, this was some of the advice that he gave Australians to economise on housing and the cost of living.
Work harder, spend less and live with your parents longer. They're some of the suggestions to get ahead from the Reserve Bank Governor Phillip Lowe. Most economists believe rates will be kept at 3.85% next Tuesday, but still tonight the chance of a rate rise is growing.
The highest profile Reserve Bank boss in history on what's likely his final trip to the hottest hot seat in memory.
I know the higher interest rates at the moment are very unpopular and they're hurting people. So what we're doing now is difficult, but it's necessary to avoid more pain.
As Dr. Lowe testified, new monthly CPI figures show prices rose 6.8% in the 12 months to April, up from 6.3% in March, the first rise since December. Electricity, housing, food, coffee and fuel all driving costs. The higher than expected number increasing the chance of another rate rise on Tuesday.
We're not going to declare victory until victory is achieved, so we won't be declaring victory prematurely.
Unless this government puts in place a proper plan, how can we expect relief for struggling families?
With house prices back rising, rent is predicted to experience its biggest jump since the 1980s. The governor encouraging people to go back to the office and home offices go back to the people as spare rooms.
Kids don't move out of home because the rent's too expensive, or you decide to get a flatmate or a housemate. We need more people on average to live in each dwelling.
Workers can expect a pay rise, Dr. Lowe said, but should be working harder, and the budget has helped, not hindered, inflation.
And with that testimony this morning, Mr. Speaker, the Reserve Bank Governor absolutely torpedoed the rubbish argument that has been peddled by those opposite.
Tonight, the revelation the Reserve Bank failed to properly pay its workers has linked the RBA with that other three-letter scandal that's engulfing Canberra.
Have you hired a consultant to help you with that?
We have.
And who is that?
And we hired PwC to help us
PwC?
go through that work.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Yes, I'm not sure if many of you are following the PwC scandal. To summarize it briefly, is that because the Canberra Public Service is quite inefficient and slow, they outsource a lot of tax and government consultancy work to the big accounting firms, which PwC is one of them. Used to be PricewaterhouseCoopers. It has been revealed this year through a tax practitioners board investigation that while PwC was advising the government on designing multinational tax arrangements, it was advising its clients at the same time, using inside information, how to minimize their tax obligations. Now, I saw one libertarian who claimed, well, this is good because it's good that this firm was helping their clients avoid or minimize their tax. Well, shouldn't everyone have the same advantage when it comes to minimizing their taxes? I mean, these PwC clients, they got an advantage over their competitors because their accountants had inside information. And it's similar in a way to, well, how Nancy Pelosi and her husband make such a killing on the stock market inside information. So yes, this has been wrong. And when I hear this term consultant, like, is consultancy, is it a real job? Like, there's so many different consultants, particularly in the political world. A lot of the talking heads on Sky News and other mainstream media outlets, consultants or from PR firms. There's all of these. There's this whole industry of telling people in government and media and what else you should do. Now, going back to what Phillip Lowe has said, obviously he's just he's just a messenger in this regard. Like, because he basically admitted that supply is not going to keep up with demand, and it's not his decision to bring in all of these migrants over the next 2 years. Now, it's not just a bipartisan, this mass migration, post-pandemic mass migration. All the minor parties are on board, including Pauline Hanson's One Nation. So this is from SBS Hindi. So Pauline Hanson said she's not anti-immigrant at all. She says she has no problem with Indian migrants. I wonder if she described Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the boss as well. So she was at a Diwa celebration organised by the Hindu Council of Australia and the Federal Parliament. So she told SBS, it's my first time to this event. It is lovely, warm, and very nice. And so, while mingling with members of the Indian community and posing for pictures, Ms. Hanson, who has called for a plebiscite on reducing migration to Australia, said she has no problem with Indian migrants. I'm not anti-migrant at all. The Indian community have actually given a lot to this country. They work hard, and I've got no problem with that. People who don't assimilate, who have no regard for this country and our laws and our way of life, don't come here. India has been the largest source of migrants and new citizens to Australia for 2 years in a row, despite the cut in migrant numbers pre-pandemic, because this is actually quite an old article from 28. It was updated last year, but it was first published in 2018. So it was recirculated this week by Joel Davis on his Telegram and other socials and other nationalist accounts. And Pauline Hanson's running mate for the Queensland Senate at the last federal election was an Australian Indian businessman, and Fraser Anning. One of his Senate running mates in 2019 was Paul Taylor, who also is an Indian immigrant as well. Now, as I've previously said on last week's program, obviously it is the Australian government and the parties believe that Indian mass migration is that migrants from India are going to assimilate better, and they're not going to be agents of a foreign government, which some of the Chinese immigrants to Australia have become. So it's a geopolitical decision to, well, obviously have both a geopolitical alliance with India, but also take in lots of Indians as well. Now, the reason, obviously, that the government says we need all of this mass migration into Australia is because there's a skill shortage or labour shortage, and it's still an issue, particularly in low-paid professions such as, well, the most urgent ones, aged care, but also in hospitality as well. There's still countless job vacancies. Now, obviously, there has been a huge, you would say, hysterical panic over artificial intelligence, the deep fakes, the chat GTP. It's been described as posing a bigger threat to humanity as a new pandemic or a nuclear holocaust. Obviously, a lot of people have seen the Terminator movies too many times. Now, at the end of 2021, 9 News, they aired a segment on how some hospitality businesses now because they couldn't get the waiters, that they now have robot waiters.
A shortage of hospitality workers has forced some restaurants to look for futuristic solutions. Robots are now serving customers to fill in the gaps, but it doesn't come cheap.
The newest employee at the Matterhorn Swiss restaurant is already impressing the boss.
She did a 4-day trial shift.
How'd she go?
Fantastic.
Well, she's still here. With lack of wait staff currently crippling the hospitality trade, Miss Bellabot is helping keep Chef Roland cooking. Has she allowed you to stay open during this time?
100%. We've been able to stay open when a lot of restaurants had to close over the Christmas period. We got to that point where we had to look outside the box.
The close to $30,000 investment, electronically mapped to cover each table from sensors on the roof, is not designed as a replacement waiter.
She does the manual lifting from kitchen to table and table to kitchen.
And that means more time for the host to host.
What she does do is she allows us an extra 6 to 7 minutes per table per night to service the table. One of the adjustments we all had to make was understanding and being mindful of where Bella was going so that we meet Bella at the table. So she's almost a glorified trolley.
Only this trolley loves it when you rub her ears. The love going both ways for the husband and wife team with almost 80 years combined hospitality experience. So, Leanne, does she have a permanent role here?
Very definitely. Bella's never going anywhere. As long as she keeps turning on, she stays with us.
Just be careful about requesting happy birthday. OK, Bella, I think that's enough now. Mate? Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Now, when I went to the Phillip Island chocolate factory back in early April, they had a number of these robot waiters. It was extremely busy, the cafe cafeteria. It was hard to get a seat, and so they utilize obviously when you you still placed an order at the checkout. The ordering process is now being automated with QR codes. You can just scan the QR code at your table, and it gets sent to the kitchen. So there could be a possibility that in the future you could not deal with any staff at all at a restaurant. You just order through the QR code and get delivered by one of these waiter robots. So it seemed to work well when I was there. It's kind of cool seeing these flash robot machines there, and obviously in retail they have the self-serve machines now, which is designed to if you don't want to wait in queue, you can get through faster through the self checkout. Despite what people say, it doesn't take people's jobs, because you always need somebody to supervise these machines and fix them when they break down. But we are going to be seeing more of this. But obviously there are I mentioned the Terminator. There are these Terminator fears that the machines are going to turn on us. I recently finished watching the final season of the X-Files. I finally made it through all of it, all 11 seasons and the 2 movies. There was an episode in the final season where Mulder and Scully, the whole episode is about their dealings with AI and smart homes and drones. And the episode begins where Mulder and Scully dine at this fully automated Japanese restaurant where there are actually no staff at all. It's the robots that also cook it as well. And Scully gets a lift home in a driverless car, and she has a whole smart home which automatically orders things for her. And they end up being cornered in this factory with these machines looking like they're wanting to kill them. But it's the robot from the Japanese restaurant who's wanting a tip, and once Mulder tips them, even though there's no human to tip, that's what makes the machines go away. There are in the US there are machines that ask for a tip, which is if that happened in Australia, there would be a lot of people saying, "You serious? We're supposed to tip a computer ordering machine or a robot waiter?" Now, obviously, going back to what Phillip Lowe said, he said, "Well, if you want to make ends meet, work longer hours," and obviously that is advice that a lot of people don't like to hear. But it is true. Obviously, if you work harder, you will earn more. You will advance in your chosen career. And this was part of the advice that Professor Gigi Foster at UNSW. You would remember that I interviewed her on her books, The Great COVID Panic and Lockdown's Cost-Benefit Analysis. She was on 60 Minutes a number of weeks back and gave some frank advice about how Australians can fix our current economic decline, and she would have got a new round of hate mail.
When we say sticky prices in general in economics, we mean prices that take a while to budge once they are set, even if there are economic reasons why they should budge. But I think we are in for more high prices and uncertainty before all of this resolves. And I think, unfortunately, it's going to be at least another couple of years before this really gets back to anything like what we saw pre-COVID.
Gigi isn't afraid to tell Australians some uncomfortable truths, like during COVID, when she controversially declared lockdowns were doing more harm than good.
No death is okay. But welcome to life. Death is part of life. And we are killing more people by keeping ourselves locked down than we are saving.
Now she's throwing a new grenade. Gigi claims our sluggish economy can partly be blamed on what she perceives as laziness and complacency amongst Australians. She's issuing an urgent call to action. Otherwise, she believes we'll end up in recession.
Get off your lazy, couch and actually do something, and it'll make you feel better, too.
So you think the pathway out of this is to actually just start working a bit harder?
The pathway out is to recognize that we are in a lot of strife at the moment, and it's on everybody's shoulders to try to get us out, even if it wasn't everybody's fault that we got here. Because the government's not going to save us. The government can't save us, even if it wanted to. The bank, the RBA can't save us. The way that economies work their way out of recessions is through hard work and the pulling up by the bootstraps of the individual person on the street, realizing, you know what? I've got to make this happen for myself.
Too often people look for scapegoats for their life situation, and it does get tedious sometimes, I find, when I see nationalists say, well, it's all rigged against me. The reason why real wages aren't going up is because of the mass migration that is happening and depressing wages. That's certainly what Joel Davis said last week. But another reason for the inflation and our reduced living standards is because, well, the government stopped a lot of people from working for 2 years. So there is a supply shortage. That is also why there are collapses in building firms and that, because of the cost of materials, the fact that we are shutting down coal-fired power stations, increasing the cost of energy, because if you reduce supply of energy and demand is the same, prices go up. So a lot of the inflation is because of reduced supply. So it's also because we are shooting ourselves economically in the foot with the fact that the government banned people from working, a lot of people from working for 2 years, and the world hasn't recovered, and the fact that the government is forcing a lot of energy producers out of the business there. So yes, there is a lot that you can do yourself to improve your own financial situation, which is not the advice a lot of people want to hear. And this was also the advice that the Western Australian of the Year, Gina Rinehart, said around a decade ago. So she said, "There's no monopoly on becoming a millionaire. If you're jealous of those with more money, don't just sit there and complain. Do something to make more money yourself. Spend less time drinking, smoking, socializing, and more time working." Now, obviously, she was pilloried for that, Gina Rinehart, because they say, well, you inherited your father, Lang Hancock's fortune. But obviously, she had a leg up because her father was a miner, but she in her own right has become the world's richest woman, the richest Australian. Hancock Prospecting now has its own owned and operated mine, which has been a dream of hers. When she was profiled for ABC's Australian Story many years back, she said she'd never had a normal weekend. She said that she'd always had her fingers on the iPad. There was also things going on. She also Gina Rinehart won the 2023 Business Award. And obviously remember, she's accused of being to put it crassly, a lot of people call her a greedy bitch, but she is a philanthropist, but she does a lot of it under the radar. So she supports breast cancer research and has also sponsored Australian swimmers. She wanted to save Netball Australia, but they decided that they were too good for her mining money, and so Netball Australia, well, the Collingwood Magpies Super Netball team just folded. It's in all sorts of trouble. In my opinion, Gina Rinehart shouldn't not be West Australian of the Year. She should be Australian of the Year. I mean, she worked really hard to achieve what she has achieved for Hancock Prospecting. She is giving back in areas that are passionate to her, and she does give advice that people do not want to hear. And now the awards were announced at a gala dinner on last Friday night. Today in Western Australia is Western Australia Day. So the event on Friday also marked Mark McGowan's final engagement as Western Australian Premier. And obviously the local media were very impartial in their reporting of Mark McGowan's resignation. So this is 9 News Perth, the state daddy. And then over at the West Australian newspaper owned by Kerry Stokes, we'll get to him later in the show. The West Australian was Mark McGowan's biggest supporter during the COVID lockdowns period. So their analysis by Kate Emery, Morning Mark McGowan, how to cope with post-state daddy syndrome. And there's this whole cringe this is in part what feminism has done to women. They have a literal state daddy now. So this was a TikTok stills. A woman has Mark McGowan in her bed there, and there's another female TikToker there with all the things that she needs, including Mark McGowan. Now, Mark McGowan, of course, is not just remembered for his COVID tyranny. He's also remembered for his video pitch to Aboriginal West Australians to get vaccinated, when he had a translator next to him to translate what he was saying to Aboriginal English, which we all learned something that Aboriginal English is a language. And she was also there for his resignation speech. So he said, "I'm tired. Mark, weak bastard. I'm exhausted. Mark can't handle accountability." And the new Western Australian Premier, it will be Roger Cook, who was Mark McGowan's deputy. He was health minister until a reshuffle when he took on a number of other portfolios such as infrastructure, trade, tourism. His main rival for the premiership was the new health minister, Amber Jade Sanderson. You might remember her during the summer of Omicron 2021-22. She said the eastern states are essentially in lockdown. And I was like, that's news to me, because I can go outside my property and not have to worry about Victoria Police choking me outside. Peak Osterman says, can't WA please secede already? Well, they did vote for it in 1933, but the eastern states didn't didn't recognise their secession. So they did vote for it 90 years ago. And even though the McGowan state daddy has departed, there's only a slight bounce for the the West Australian Liberal Party in the polls. Obviously, in the state election, the two-party preferred vote was 70 to Labor and 30% to the Liberals. It's narrowed now. Labor is at 61% and Liberals are at 39%. Well, the Liberals aren't even the official opposition. The state Liberal leader is Libby Metham. She is the member for Vass. There was a spill late last year between the two lower house members. The previous leader was David Honey, the member for Cottesloe. They had a spill where they have a number of upper house members, but the leader comes in the lower house. They had a leadership contest between their two lower house members there. And now Anthony Albanese, Airbus elbow, he has been jet setting again, albeit in the Asia Pacific region. So he was in Singapore for the Shangri-La dialogue. He was due to meet with the Singapore Prime Minister, but he had COVID again, so was isolating. And then he had a bilateral visit to Vietnam, where, imagine my shock, Albanese decided to have a drinking session with the local Vietnamese. The other nickname I have for him is Albia, because how many public events has he had a drink? Obviously, at the Australian Open tennis, he was there for 3 days drinking beer. He had a St. Patrick's Day drink as well. And he also sculled a beer at a Gangs of Youth concert in 2022. He said he would govern like Bob Hawke, but he's more drinking like Bob Hawke. I'm working on the next article I'm working on is our boozy PM, Al Beer. I wonder if he's on a flight from Australia to London, he's broken David Boone's record for number of beers in a single flight, which was allegedly 52 back in 1989 to an Ashes test there. But the reason why, the excuse why Anthony Albanese posted an official prime ministerial video of him drinking beer with Vietnamese people is because the beer was made with Australian barley. So there was a proud Australian export, and Anthony Albanese is back in Australia now. He was on ABC 7:30 tonight, being interviewed by Sarah Ferguson, and announced that he had achieved something in Vietnam, the Vietnamese government had granted clemency to 2 Australians who are on death row. The Vietnamese government normally does this. They have the death penalty for things like drug trafficking, but they normally grant clemency if of the citizens of a country if their government requests it. I see Dawn Browning has entered the chat. Though back home, there was more bad polling for Anthony Albanese's, what he wants to be his legacy. One of the centerpieces of his legacy is the constitutionally enshrined Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice in the Constitution. It's not just voice to Parliament now, it is a voice to the executive now. And a news poll in the Australian showed that it is now 46% say of the sample are voting yes, 43% are voting no, and 11 don't know. And if you have a look at the, because it has the age breakdown, regional breakdown, and also education breakdown, and it shows that more majority of university educated people are going to be voting yes. It also shows that more metro people are going to be voting yes, and more young Gen Ys and even some Gen Zers are. So there's the Labor and Teal pollster, Cos Samaras. He thinks that age demographics are destiny, and so he's being quite arrogant the whole time, like the whole yes campaign, by saying, well, demographics will carry the day. Well, they are more inclined to vote yes, and so inner city university educated people, not that a university education actually makes you more smarter. I mean, we've seen what's being pumped out of universities and what some academics spew. But yeah, the yes campaign, it just basically thought it would be a formality that they could just roll on the symbolism. I mean, there's hardly been a thorough yes advertising campaign or ground game. The no campaign has absolutely nailed the reasons to oppose the voice. Is that it'll mean that some Australians have more of a say than others based on who their ancestors were. We don't know whether this voice could have a veto power or it could hold up the business of government, depending on how the High Court rules. This was my article from last week, Voice, Race, Blackmail Gets Desperate. And this was the cartoon from Johannes Leek in The Australian last week. So there's these nervous people at a bus stop. Their posters all around a vote yes or else. So how do you think we'll vote in the upcoming ultimatum? And a lot of the yes advocates I see on social media say, oh, we should vote yes because of the symbolism, because voting no would set back reconciliation. And obviously, we have had people such as Noel Pearson and Marsha Langton be quite forceful when criticizing their opponents. So I mentioned here that Noel Pearson, he called Peter Dutton opposing the voice a Judas betrayal, and Marsha Langton claimed his no campaign relies on deceit and misrepresentation. We had Albanese last week refer to no campaigners and as chicken littles, and claimed Australians won't fall for appeals to fear and the no campaign, an ever more ludicrous invitation to jump at our own shadows. But he was in damage control the next day on Radio 500 in Adelaide, and said that no voters are entitled to their views and aren't racist. It could be delayed if they think that they are going to lose, but it's been their arrogance and the fact that they thought they could just either blackmail people or just go on the feel good, and felt that they didn't need to compromise on any of the wording or limit it to just a parliament. They thought they could just get everything because they thought it would be similar to the same-sex marriage survey, which of course wasn't a constitutional referendum. But during the same-sex marriage vote, the Yes campaign hardly did any major advertising campaigning. It was all the no side there. So yeah, it certainly is not the cruisy. They're not going for the cruisy victory. Certainly not. In fact, I would say that a if the referendum does proceed in October this year, it will be voted down. Now, in terms of needing to change the constitution to or close the gap, or because there's some because it will help solve injustice, I quite like the argument from this gentleman on Sky News Australia around about 10 years ago, when he talked about how British law had actually benefited Indigenous Australians.
The thing about this too I'm mindful of is that the British law and our constitution as it's framed has allowed for enormous benefits and strides when it comes to the rights of Indigenous people and changes within the broader body politic when it comes to Indigenous people. I mean, the Mabo decision went to the High Court, and the High Court ruled in favour of that claim under British law. So, you know, I'm fairly conservative when it comes to meddling with these types of things, because I think you need to govern for all. It needs to be a constitution for all. And as it stands now, British law, the Australian Constitution, the Australian settlement has been shown that it can work for Indigenous people as well. Not to say that there aren't huge areas of concern, but we're a long way from even understanding what we are talking about, let alone getting down to taking opinion polls.
Well, good on
and
you,
I think Stan's view is pretty well exactly what reflects the fact that Australians are hesitant to do those things, and you're in a position to see that. And as I say, it is hard. You pointed out it's very hard to get them up, so you want to do it right, as you say, Dick.
Yes, he makes a sound conservative constitutionalist argument there, that guy from 10 years ago, before he joined the ABC. And, well, not just went through a change in his outlook on Australia, but also a change in his skin color as well. Now, moving on to the big big developments in Australia's legal system. This past week, we had last Thursday it's been called Australia's most expensive defamation case. So Ben Roberts Smith, a Victoria Cross recipient, veteran of the war in Afghanistan, Australia's most decorated living veteran. He had launched defamation action against the Nine publishing company, the Canberra Times, and journalists Nick McKenzie and Chris Masters, who accused him of unlawfully killing Afghan civilians and committing war crimes in a series of reports in newspapers and on 60 Minutes in 2018. And now this was before I go on to the more obviously the consequential aftermath of so this was not a decision reached by a jury. It wasn't a jury defamation case. It was a judgment by federal court justice Anthony Besenko. So he ruled, and the Age and other Channel 9, a newspaper, websites, television, and radio, they've been having a wall-to-wall victory lap, and so they provided a summary of what Justice Besenko said ruled was substantially true in their reporting. So Justice Besenko, he found that claims were substantially true that, and I am just quoting what the the Age is reporting. Remember, he is not a war criminal or a murderer because he hasn't been convicted in a criminal capacity. He would. There are investigations by the Office of Special Investigator and the Department of Defence, and there's an investigation by the Australian Federal Police. So this is what they found. The justice found claims were substantially true that he murdered a unarmed Afghan civilian by kicking him off a cliff and procuring other soldiers to shoot him. He committed murder by pressuring a newly deployed soldier to execute an elderly unarmed Afghan to blood the rookie. He committed murder by machine gunning a man with a prosthetic leg. And also mentioned that he took the prosthetic leg back to Australia and encouraged his soldiers to use it as a novelty beer drinking vessel. What was not proven is that he committed an act of domestic violence against a woman, and that he was a hypocrite who publicly supported Rosie Batty while committing domestic, while he abused a woman in private. That was not proven, but the Justice Bashenko said that, well, all of these other proven claims, his reputation is already ruined, that it's inconsequential that those domestic violence allegations weren't proven. So obviously, led by the 9 newspapers and 60 Minutes, they dedicated their whole show last night to a victory lap. They claimed it was a win for journalism. Nick McKenzie, he said that the judge found that Ben Roberts Smith was a war criminal, liar, and a bully. Nick McKenzie can say that now in public. It's not found to be defamatory, but he hasn't been found guilty in a criminal sense of these. And obviously, there was the much talked about Brereton report in 2020, which claimed it found credible evidence of 39 murders committed by Australian troops, excluding so-called fog of war incidents. Now, Ben Roberts Smith, he was backed by his boss, Kerry Stokes, the owner of Channel 7 and the West Australian newspaper. After he retired from the ADF, Ben Roberts Smith, he worked for Kerry Stokes, first as the manager of 7 Queensland, then as the general manager of 7 Brisbane. So it was a de facto defamation trial where you had 9 up against 7. And Kerry Stokes, following the verdict, said that these allegations, they don't fit with the man that I know. Now, 41 Australians died in Australia's longest war, lasted 20 years, and the US-led coalition, they overthrew the Taliban at the end of 2001, only to replace the Afghan government with the Taliban when they left in 2021. So spending 20 years nation building to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. And Ben Roberts Smith and the other SAS soldiers, they have no choice about where they're deployed. They were deployed basically to a civil war on the other side of the world. And you know, when there is a civil war in a country, you don't know who is friend or foe. And it was one of the most dangerous conflicts for any of our soldiers to be in, this type of urban warfare. And so they're in a foreign country where it's hard to tell who is friend or foe. There was instances of Afghan-trained soldiers turning on the Western soldiers and killing them. So it obviously being in that type of dangerous environment, there can be mistakes that are made. Obviously, not many of us could do what they do. They, as I just said, 41 Australians died over in fighting in the war of Afghanistan, 34 as a result of enemy action. Like, obviously, if you're in a war conflict zone, I'm talking generally, I mean, it doesn't give you permission to just kill anyone that you like. Obviously, during the Vietnam War, the My Lai massacre committed by the US soldiers was outrage. It caused outrage. But but again, the Vietnam War, because it was a civil war, you didn't know who was friend or foe. Like, take for example World War II, on the Kokoda, it was pretty clear who was on the Australian side. It was obviously the Australian soldiers, who were overwhelmingly Anglo-Australian, and the enemy was Japanese. And Japanese people, they have a particular appearance, so they easily stand out. Now, my opinion is that we shouldn't have been in Afghanistan to begin with. If we wanted to take retribution for, not when I say we, if the US wanted to take retribution for the 9/11 attacks, it should have overthrown the Saudi government. Because the most of the 9/11 hijackers were Saudis, received Saudi financing. There were the 28 pages implicates members of the Saudi government in 9/11. So the justification for going there was that apparently Afghanistan was harboring bin Laden. Some bin Laden, he was a Saudi, but he was ended up founding in Pakistan there, and we didn't overthrow the Pakistani government when that happened there. So it obviously they shouldn't have been there in the first place, and it has been well filtered up that many of the SAS soldiers did too many tours, and so because none of us can ever imagine ourselves in that situation there. Now, obviously, there are a lot of anti-Australian Australian people who hate the Anzac legend, particularly the Greens. David Shoebridge wants the Ben Roberts Smith exhibition at the Australian War Memorial to be taken down. There's calls for his Victoria Cross to be stripped, even though he earned that in bravery in another battle. Now, I think before no decision like that should be made unless he is found guilty of war crimes and murder in a criminal court, and he hasn't. We don't know if he will. There is the possibility that he could appeal this defamation finding. Regardless, I mean, this was devastating, this defamation verdict. He's had to resign as 7 Queensland General Manager. His lawyer, Arthur Moses, SC, Gladys Berejiklian's boyfriend, has said it could be appeal. He might have to pay all of the costs, all the 25 million. Kerry Stokes has got his Victoria Cross as collateral. And now, a lot of his own SAS soldiers testified against him at that defamation trial. So, although there's Nick McKenzie's trying to spin it like, look, we're not. It wasn't about. It wasn't about taking down the SAS. It was about telling the story of the brave men who saw. Who this was Nick McKenzie's word. Who wanted to speak out and make sure that the SAS that it remains an honourable Australian military force. And Nick McKenzie, he's been doing a media blitz victory lap. Now, this defamation finding doesn't mean that Nick McKenzie is always right here on other matters. He's got a book that's coming out, Crossing the Line, Nick McKenzie. I wonder if he'll do another Stan documentary where he'll be crying in the car about all of the stress of the Ben Roberts Smith defamation trial. Now, so 60 Minutes had the victory lap on their program Sunday night. Tom Steinford actually presented it. He interviewed Nick McKenzie and Chris Masters. They were the interview subjects. Tom Steinford was the reporter. Over on Channel 7 Spotlight program, Liam Bartlett, who used to be a 60 Minutes reporter, he interviewed Bruce Lehrmann, the man, Brittany Higgins, accused of raping her at Parliament House in March of 2019. The trial was aborted because one of the jurors had material on witness coaching, which wasn't permitted. The jury had been deadlocked until a mistrial was declared. The prosecutor, Shane Drumgold SC, said that he would not be seeking a retrial because of the risk to Brittany Higgins' life. He called for an inquiry, which is the soft enough inquiry where he is being put on trial. The fact that the Australian Federal Police didn't believe there was sufficient evidence to charge Bruce Lehrmann. Now, I watched it last night. It goes for an hour and 23 minutes there, the sit down. So we got to see not just the questions that Liam Bartlett put to Bruce Lehrmann, but the CCTV from the Friday night drinks that Higgins and Lehrmann had with colleagues in Defence Department staff, but also when they entered Parliament House after 1 a.m. on the Saturday morning when they got past security and were escorted to Linda Reynolds' office. Now, Bruce Lehrmann, he claims that he went back to Parliament House to collect his house keys and also his pass. And he said that Brittany Higgins, she said to him, this is what he claimed, that she also had to pick up some things. Now, Bruce Lehrmann says that they both went in different directions. He made notes at his desk and Brittany Higgins went to her office and that he left 40 minutes later without her. Now, Liam Bartlett asked, why didn't you check on her? Because she was found several hours later on Linda Reynolds' couch naked. And he said, oh, because after midnight, they kept going to another bar called Club 88. There was a witness who said that they claimed who claimed that they saw Brittany Higgins and Bruce Lehrmann kissing on a couch. Bruce Lehrmann denies that. And Brittany Higgins, in her interview with Lisa Wilkinson, claimed that Bruce Lehrmann plastered her with drinks. His credit card statement said that he only spent $40 on drinks that night. Now, when you look at the security footage of Bruce Lehrmann and Brittany Higgins entering Parliament House, Brittany Higgins, she doesn't look totally wasted, intoxicated. She looks tipsy. She looks very excited to be there at that hour. She's wearing that cocktail dress that she claimed she didn't wear for 6 months afterwards, even though she wore it at an election function, because the election was in May 2019. In May 2019. Margot has joined us, but decided to listen to Avi Yemeni and Real Rukshan's opposition podcast. They had on Heston Russell, another SAS veteran. He is suing the ABC, who accused him of war crimes, and he believes that you shouldn't be able to accuse war veterans of you shouldn't be able to air allegations against veterans in the media. It should all be a judicial process. He believes that there should be a special exemption from accusing veterans of misconduct when they're on duty. But going back to the 7 News Spotlight. Now, Higgins, she told Lisa Wilkinson, and we got to hear because Lisa Wilkinson's producer recorded the pre-interview chat between Lisa, him, Brittany Higgins, and her fiance David Shiraz. And it was basically planned out that she would resign on the Friday. The interview would air on the Monday, and the Sam Maiden piece would come out on the Monday. And she said that, it'd be incredibly hard to prove any criminal charges. I just want to stop him getting pre-selection in a seat like Wentworth. And despite the fact that she said she was this traumatized rape victim, it's they're having some, they're even cracking jokes over dinner when they're discussing how they're going to plan this. And now Lisa Wilkinson, what 7 News Spotlight did is that Lisa Wilkinson suggests stuff that Brittany Higgins say, which she does say in the interview, coaching her. And now this is not obviously in you should be, when you're interviewing somebody. I know when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm inquisitive. I certainly don't coach the people I interview, but this is common practice in a lot of the media. When a interviewer is trying to spin a narrative like Me Too, they will coach a subject. 7 News Spotlight a number of years back, it might have been Sunday night, they interviewed Craig McLachlan, who was accused of sexual misconduct on the Rocky Horror show theatre production. He was found not guilty of any of the allegations. The 7 News Spotlight got him to react to the ABC journalist coaching the girls on their answers. It reminded me of the current affairs parody program Frontline from 30 years ago, made by the Working Dog team, who are going to be back this week with the 5th season of Utopia, set at the National Building Authority. Anthony Albanese's spin has given them another season, but in Frontline, which was a parody of current affairs shows in Australia in the early 90s, the main character, Mike Moore, played by Rob Sitch, he was a parody of Mike Moore, of Stan Grant and Ray Martin at the time. And his Rob Sitch's wife, Jane Kennedy, played the ambitious female reporter, Brooke Vandenberg. And she used to coach interview subjects on what to say during the interview. So it very much reminded me of that. Now, it seems to me that both Bruce Lehrmann and Brittany Higgins are not telling the truth. At the end of the day, it's a he said, she said. They probably did have sex how else? How else would Brittany Higgins end up naked on a couch if she just went on her own? And obviously, there was that witness who said that they were kissing in the corner. And Bruce Lehrmann, he was in a relationship at the time, and so if you were wanting to cheat on your girlfriend, you could cover it up with late night parliamentary business. Now, Linda Reynolds' chief of staff at the time, Fiona Brown, claimed that Bruce had told her that they went back to drink whiskey at his office. Bruce Lehrmann was sacked when their late night entrance was discovered, but Brittany Higgins wasn't fired, maybe because she claimed that she was raped. But the following Monday, after their Friday night, Saturday morning at Parliament House, they had a coffee together. So Brittany Higgins clearly wasn't so traumatized. She still met Bruce Lehrmann for coffee. So clearly, it should never have gone to trial because nothing could be proven. There was no DNA evidence. Brittany Higgins was found to have, at the very least, misled investigators. I mean, the dress is just one example. And obviously, there was the political element as well. The media wanted to attack the Morrison government as well. Young Liberals behaving badly is another angle that particularly the female journalists want to push. Now, Bruce Lehrmann, he settled with News Corp, his defamation action against News Corp last week, which they're not paying him any compensation. They're just paying some of his legal fees, and Samantha Maiden's articles are still online. And there is still the defamation action against Lisa Wilkinson and the project, and also ABC News as well. Now, going on to other legal news. And so the AFL closed its investigation into racism or accusations of mistreatment of Hawthorn Indigenous players by former coach Alistair Clarkson, assistant coach Chris Fagan, and former welfare officer whose name was his name always escapes me. I'll get to it. Jason Burt, I think, is his name. But they finally outed themselves because they are now taking their case to the Australian Human Rights Commission. So, four-time premiership player Cyril Rioli, he outed himself as one of the four First Nations family. His wife Shannon Asham Rioli, Jermaine and Montana Miller-Lewis, Leon Egan, and Carl Peterson. And so they claim here that we never asked for money. All we ever wanted was to sit with the coaches and officials we looked up to and who had such control over our lives and future, and make them understand what we heard, what had an impact on our lives, and to listen to them and listen to them tell us their own truths, even why they thought they were helping us. None of us deserve this public shit show, including them, but they've now made their choice, and we will bring them to the Human Rights Commission, conciliation, to listen to the truths that they don't want to hear. And if they still won't listen, then we'll end up in the federal court where we'll tell our truths in the witness box, but they will hear us one way or another. We believe that with the passing of time, the Hawthorn Football Club will acknowledge that our suffering and pain was real. Now, Bert, he has said that bring it on. that I want to go all the way to the federal court to clear my name. Alistair Clarkson is on a mental health leave from his North Melbourne job. Now, Sirioli, he retired in 2018 because he claimed that he was racially mistreated. And he said the final straw was a joke that Hawthorn president Jeff Kennett made about his wife Shanine's designer ripped jeans at the airport, offering loose change to help sew them. Comments he claims was a joke. And Shane said, I felt belittled and humiliated. The club said I was overreacting, but they were betraying me as the angry black woman. They later said I wanted to go home to Darwin for a while. That's not right. So, apparently a joke by Jeff Kennett about designer ripped jeans. Like, it's not the funniest joke ever, but apparently that joke was racist, according to Sirioli and his wife there. Now, there are more laws against free speech being proposed. So we had over the weekend 2 National Socialist Network members, Michael Nelson and Nathan Bull, in the Melbourne CBD, doing the Nazi salute with a T-shirt that said 6 million, that a bit much, with a question mark. Now, they had allegedly gate crashed a pro-Iranian protest. So it looks like it's got Devere Abramovich's face on there. And so Devere said to the Daily Mail, it is an outrage that those inflamed with virulent anti-Semitism who are using the evil of this gesture as a rallying cry to intimidate and terrorize the community still have the law on their side. Let's be clear, performing this salute is a call for murder, and a Holocaust survivor seeing it, it tears a hole in the heart and is threatening as being held up with a gun. Now, you can guarantee that after the Andrews government has banned the Nazi salute, that they will also ban, public denial, questioning of the Holocaust. I'm not sure if they could make it illegal completely, but that'll be next there. And up in Queensland, they're wanting to go all out and have a 3-year jail term for bigoted hate speech, including online. The Criminal Code Serious Vilification and Hate Crimes and Other Legislation Amendment Bill increases the penalty for bigoted public statements from 6 months to 3 years. And so it covers any form of communication to the public, including speaking, writing, printing, displaying notices, broadcasting, telecasting, screening, or playing tapes or otherwise recorded materials by electronic means. So Queensland could end up with even worse anti-free speech laws than Victoria. And what the hell is that ad there? This pops up everywhere from Temu. So it looks like that they've got these, these like things to put on a man's penis and some urinal thing. It's like remember the Wish things? Like, this is on Cauldron Pool, a conservative Christian website there. Yeah, so that is. I should let either Ben Davis or Evelyn Ray know this is the ads that are popping up on your website. I'm sure they'll be mortified. Now I've gone almost completely over time, so let's go through the updates on the 2024 US presidential election. So we've already got Nikki Haley and Tim Scott and Ron DeSantis challenging Donald Trump. Obviously, there's Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't consider him a serious candidate. And looks like Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence, will announce his bid for the Republican nomination for president, and he coincidentally just got cleared of mishandling classified documents. There is no such clearance for Donald Trump. Now, obviously, Joe Biden, he is facing a challenge from Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy, but the Democrats are going to rig the primaries again, so that Biden will cruise through to the nomination. There's going to be no debates, though. If Biden's health deteriorates to the point of incapacity or death, then he won't be the 2024 US presidential nominee. And he had another fall, which has garnered much chatter and reaction. Now, in fairness, Biden did get up pretty quickly, which it's not bad for an 80-year-old. So he did look like he'd lost his direction there, and aide had to steer him in the right direction there. Remember that previously, when he was cycling in Delaware, when he stopped his bike, he fell over sideways. It started a new trend of Bidening, where cyclists took photos of themselves lying on the ground on their bike. Now, Trump, who not only is in great physical health, but also mental health as well, he was asked for reaction.
He's at the Air Force Academy. He actually fell down. Well, I hope he wasn't hurt. I hope he wasn't hurt. But the whole thing is crazy. You got to be careful about that. You got to be careful about that, because you don't want that. Even if you have to tiptoe down a ramp, you got to tiptoe.
Now, YouTube, one of the platforms that I'm streaming to, updated their policy on US election misinformation, which, Richard Wollstonecroft from the Report in Tiger Mountain has had several videos taken down for questioning the results of the 2020 US presidential election. So they said that with the 2024 campaigns well underway, we will stop removing content that advances false claims that widespread fraud, errors, or glitches occurred in the 2020 and other past US presidential elections. And they preface to say that this specific aspect of our misinformation policy represents just one piece of a broad, holistic approach towards supporting elections on YouTube. Here's what isn't changing. You can't promote misinformation about where and when an election is taking place. That you can't promote false claims that would materially discourage voting, including those disputing the validity of mail-in voting. And they still have their hate speech, harassment, and incitement to violence policies. So they still believe, YouTube, that their false claims of widespread fraud, that their false claims that widespread fraud, errors, and glitches occurred in the 2020 election, but you're allowed to say it on YouTube now, and I think this is a reaction to Elon Musk allowing such discussion now on Twitter. Obviously, he now allows he's gotten rid of Twitter's COVID misinformation policy. YouTube certainly hasn't gotten rid of their COVID misinformation. Sorry, I should do misinformation in inverted commas there. Because I've had several Tim's News Explosion episodes taken down for reporting news surrounding COVID. Now, there was obviously the big story out of Twitter was that because the Daily Wire was planning to give away for free on Twitter Matt Walsh's What is a Woman documentary, but they got an email from Twitter saying that it would be, well, it would be censored. Its reach would be limited because of hate speech misgendering. And of course, they were perplexed because Elon Musk has said that Twitter is now for free speech. He has said personally that anyone who has been found guilty of mutilating a child should go to prison. And so this seemed like there was still a large number of censors still working in Twitter's trust and safety team. One of them resigned, and Elon Musk ended up pinning Matt Walsh's What is a Woman documentary to the top of his Twitter feed. It's now been viewed over 100 million times on this Memorial Day long weekend. Now, back when it first premiered last year, Dewey Jabor, my former Trade Tasman Talk co-host, wrote a review, and Dewey Jabor, when it comes to the transgender issue, he is as blunt as Matt Walsh is. So he called it What is a Woman is an expose on evil. And so a lot of the film is Matt Walsh speaking to these moronic academics who can't answer this basic question, what is a woman? Spoiler alert, as an adult human female. And the Babylon Bee has, they revealed that damning leak revealed that Matt Walsh knew what a woman was this whole time. Now, I think that this censorship of what is a woman by Twitter and then being promoted by Elon Musk, I reckon it was a 4D chess move by Elon Musk to promote this film, but also to promote that, look, I'm still weeding out the anti-free speech people in Twitter. I'm still draining the Twitter swamp. I'm determined to return free speech to Twitter. So, yeah, I reckon this was a strategic move by Musk to basically, because he called it himself the Streisand effect. My company, some people at my company tried to censor it. Look, now it's bigger now. And so, yeah, I reckon that this was maybe Elon Musk's plan, his plan all along, because now people love Twitter and Elon Musk even more, and a lot more people are going to want to stay on Twitter now and not migrate to Donald Trump's Truth Social, which is now available finally in Australia. It's the only place to view Donald Trump's public statements on Truth Social. And on Truth Social, Donald Trump, a number of days ago, he congratulated Kim Jong-un on getting, what was it? He was able to get some seat on the World Health Organization. It boasts a lot of things here. Now, I've created an account over on Truth Social. So if you want to go over and create an account, make sure that you follow. Yeah, I can't find his praise of Kim Jong-un's post there. Never mind. But yes, so I just set up mine this afternoon. So I'm following 22. I haven't got any followers as yet. I did my first post promoting tonight's program there. Now I've gone way over time, so I will briefly cover the fact that Melbourne's Doherty Institute, they have done a study in vitro, which was just in a test tube, that a particular kind of garlic can treat the COVID-19 and other influenza, but it hasn't been tested on humans. It hasn't had human trials. I'm sure there'll be many who will want to volunteer So Brett Sutton, his post from February 2020, where he said that garlic isn't going to keep you safe from COVID. Now, obviously, more tests need to be done to prove that this works in humans as this treatment. If it turns out to treat COVID, this particular type of garlic. This study was commissioned by a garlic growers association, but it was conducted by the Doherty Institute, which of course is a respected biomedical research facility institute around the University of Melbourne. So not only can it help you recover from COVID, possibly, but it also keeps away the vampires as well, 2 in 1. But also getting the vaccine protects you from vampires, because vampires don't want to drink pure blood. Now, an update on last week's UK news. Now, Mizzy, the TikTok terrorist, he is still getting platformed by the mainstream media. In fact, I think Talk TV might give him like a contract as a regular contributor. He was on another Talk TV program. They can't get enough, the Talk TV hosts, of feeling morally superior by telling Mizzy, you are an idiot for what you have done. And Philip Schofield, the disgraced former ITV This Morning host, he's now gone on the PR counter offensive to say that he's the real victim. I'm being driven to I'm being driven to suicide. I could end up like Catherine Flack, who was a British presenter who killed herself because of press reporting that she assaulted her then boyfriend, and claims that he didn't groom the runner boy, that it's just something that happened in the dressing room once he was over 18 and we were working together, or I didn't fancy him when we first started chatting and I gave him advice. And so it's actually looking like the media might buy this. And breaking news, Holly Willoughby, she is back hosting This Morning. So her career is looks like it will survive. And even Philip Schofield, because he did a soft interview with the BBC. Imagine the BBC doing a soft interview for a groomer. So yeah, it's incredibly well played by whoever's PR advising him. But that is all that I've got time for. Completely run out of time. So thank you so much for joining me once again. I know I feel that YouTube is suppressing the Wilmsfront channel again. Remember, upcoming events. Nick Patterson's trial has been moved to the 28th of August, 15-day trial there. And also on the Saturday, the 17th of June, so not this Saturday, the next Saturday, there is a rally against smart cities, which is at Pioneers Park in Berwick. And there's going to be a new report from Tiger Mount Wollstonecroft on the Unshackled YouTube channel later this week when the second strike is over. And of course, I'll be posting more on the unshackled.net in the week. And remember, if you don't fancy sending through a super chat, but want to support the Unshackled's work, you can take out an Unshackled membership, where you can take out a bronze membership, $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, platinum $50 per month. I'll see you all again next Monday for Tim's News Explosion. It'll probably be another epic news week. So thank you so much for watching again. Stay safe, stay sane, stay warm, stay free, and also stay happy as well. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.